We've got another Red Friday edition of the Intangibles brought to you by Arrowhead Addict. My name is Price Carter, and with me today, again, it's my good friend, Christian Ainsworth. Christian, what'd you have for dinner?
Nothing yet. I just got home. Had some trouble with the Wi-Fi, but I'm thinking pork chops, from mashed potatoes and gravy. We'll see what I got in the fridge.
Wow, that sounds good. I want to vent for a second. This place will remain nameless because they're not a sponsor, but if they want to be a sponsor, come get us. Even though there's this new trend, these restaurants, they have like 4 things on the menu, right? Like, let's just say hypothetically, the 4 things are chicken strips, Texas toast, sauce, French fries. That's the whole menu, right? Like that's all there is. And somehow every time I go to this place, the lines are so long. I was just there and it took me like 15 minutes to get through the line. I don't understand how that happens. Okay. Just make more chicken. Just put more chicken. Like you put a guy at the fryer and you say, don't run out of chicken. Just keep making it until we tell you to stop. Your goal is for that thing to never get empty. I don't know. I just make more chicken, man. I don't understand how that happens when there's like 3 things on the menu.
You know, it's funny that you say that because I recently went to a chicken place. I think it was on Monday. And I had a little extra time. I thought I'll treat myself. I'm going to get the big box. I'm going to get a little extra. And the line was moving at the slowest pace possible. And when I got up there, they're like, we ran out of chicken. I'm like, how do you run out of chicken? That's your menu item.
I worked at a Chick-fil-A in college. And like my shift was basically come in during the lunch rush when everyone was changing classes and stuff. And my job was on the breading table. And literally my job was just like, hey, you just keep making chicken, okay? And we'll tell you when to stop, all right? I was the Forrest Gump of chicken making, all right? I was just like doughing and put them in the powder and doing that and put them in the fire. That's all my job was. And we never ran out of chicken, okay? I was the Forrest Gump of making chicken breast, all right? So I don't understand how it happens. This is my end of my rant. Old man yells at cloud. That's me.
Hey, but this is actually a legitimate pet peeve that I have as well.
There's 3 things on the menu. There's 3 things on the menu. Like, hey guys, like, what? They need more French fries? They need more chicken? Who could have seen this coming? And I get it. You got to bag it up and stuff. It's okay. It's all right. I'll probably be back in that line again. Not my taste. It's more of my wife's taste. But we're going to talk more than chicken breasts today. We're going to talk about your Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to have kind of a bigger picture discussion on Xavier Worthy, and then we're going to be handing out some awards, talking about this season, since we're right about the halfway point for the season. But before we do that, we got to talk about something. Some big results came in yesterday. It was the election in Missouri. Welcome to sports gambling. And you're probably thinking, oh, I can gamble on sports today, right? Well, not quite yet. But you know what you can open up? You can open up that Underdog app. It's Underdog Fantasy, and it's the best place to play. They've got so many fun games that you can play with by just picking higher or lower. You've got the vulture protection, where you can select a designated running back to score a touchdown on your pick'em entry. And if they get vultured, they'll rescue your entry. So if you've got a guy that's the main running back and then someone comes in and steals that touchdown, well, guess what? You get the entry back. We talked last week about tender football tender, red zone rush, a game where you won't find anywhere else where you just pick whether a player is going to score a touchdown by swiping right or swiping left. Swiping and piping, it's as simple as that. Plus your entry will be automatically boosted and you'll get a 51% profit boost. And another thing to do that's fun to play with is the packs. Use those nice SGP built upon a particular game script. There's one that I saw for Thursday Night Football coming up that's called Kings of the North, and it's centered around Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Get in on the action at Underdog. Download the app today and use the code Arrowhead Addict, that's all one word, to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash entry. Again, that's code Arrowhead Addict, all one word, to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Select higher or lower on your favorite player and cash in on Underdog. Must be 18 years or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.mpcgambling.org. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. Christian, let me ask you a question. What's the deal with Xavier Worthy?
That's a fantastic question. And if you know the cadence of the show here, we've probably prepped for that. Xavier Worthy, man, like what were our expectations going into this? Because I feel like that's going to kind of gauge how we feel about Xavier Worthy moving forward, right?
I think that's the exact right place to start. And I also think it's worth mentioning that the expectations have probably changed based upon the situation. So Xavier Worthy gets drafted. Everyone's talking about the Bills and laughing at the Bills pick. And let's just kind of leave that analysis out of here because that's kind of its own separate conversation about the Bills trading with the Chiefs. But what did you have in mind? And not just statistically, right? But just what did you have in mind when Xavier Worthy's name is called and he's a Kansas City Chief?
My first reaction to the draft was a little bit scared. I thought he was a little bit overdrafted. I saw him as like a mid-second round pick, but definitely somebody who was like an impact player. Like maybe not necessarily high volume, maybe not necessarily that go-to guy on third down, but like a legitimate weapon that you can line up in the backfield from the slot, get him in motion, and then attack the field deep down the field. And we've seen that a little bit, but he hasn't necessarily been as effective as you'd like to see.
What about lining him up at fullback? I don't know if you saw my post today on Twitter, but he had his hand in the dirt at fullback this week, which is something that I just really didn't expect to see in Kansas City.
You know, it's funny. We actually have a fullback on the roster now, again, after the last one left. And instead of lining up Carson Steele there, we've got Xavier Worthy. Like, I understand Andy Reid, the mad scientist, but dude, come on, man.
If you watch the play, he didn't do anything that a fullback would do, though. Like, he jets across Patrick Mahomes, it's a play fake, and then he like flares out to the flat. So, I mean, he could have dumped it out to Worthy. And I assume they'll probably do something with that later. Like, maybe he runs a wheel route from there. Either way, he's like going to be so close to the line of scrimmage that I'm afraid someone's going to chip him. He'll go flying. But back to the topic at hand, right? I think I was very careful on the draft show here to say Xavier Worthy is a good player. And there's a lot of traits that he has that make him a first round pick. I don't know about first round talent because of some of the concerns that are around him, but my ultimate ceiling for him was a high end wide receiver too. This has kind of been the dawn of the small receiver, guys like Jordan Addison, Tank Dell. We've seen a lot of smaller players come in and make an impact in the league. And I felt like that kind of paved the way for Xavier Worthy, who has a trait that is a trait that the NFL will always covet, and that's game-changing speed. And we've seen that make an effect. And one thing I want to be sure when we're talking about Xavier Worthy and analyzing him, the player, is there's things that he does that we don't quite see. How open Travis Kelce is, how open DeAndre Hopkins is, Rashee Rice whenever he was on the field, the run game. Some of those things are partly because you have a player that teams have to respect. But I'm here to tell you, there were plays, particularly the play that Xavier Worthy did not catch, notably on the first drive. I was sitting there and I was like the meme for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like pointing at the TV screen, single high safety. Like you could see it. It was Antoine Winfield Jr., single high. I was like, all right, here you go. Like you're kind of in the plus territory. This is the time to take a shot. And they did not get it. But teams, they still dare the Chiefs to throw the ball deep a little bit. To that point, let's hear some stats about how Xavier Worthy is doing right now. Patrick Mahomes' completion percentage this year when targeting Xavier Worthy, 48.7%. Everybody else on the team, 73.5%. Almost double. Xavier Worthy, since the bye week, he's 7 for 18. So 7 receptions on 18 targets for 56 yards, 1 touchdown with 3 carries for -5 yards and a drop. That's rough. 7 for 18. And the reason why I wanted to do since the bye week, you could say when the Rashee Rice injury happened, the Chiefs weren't really kind of equipped to kind of plan for what this offense was going to look like based around Xavier Worthy, which is now, until DeAndre Hopkins got here, the predominant guy that the offense was going to flow through. And they gave that a try. And since that time, the results have not really been encouraging. He's 60th in the league in yards per reception, which is almost dead last. 63rd, it would be dead last. 50th in PFF receiving grade. And then we go back to the draft. Here are some of the guys who are outpacing him. Xavier Legette, Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas Jr. Basically, everybody who is taking around him. There's some that aren't. For instance, the receiver Ricky Pearsall that was taken by the 49ers, he got shot. So we'll let it slide, okay? Like there's a valid reason why he is not outpacing Xavier Worthy. And there's some other guys. His teammate from Texas, A.D. Mitchell, has not really put much on there. Roman Wilson was taken in the second round by the Steelers. He's not really done a lot. But right now, Xavier Worthy is on a pace for we're 8 games in the season. It's a 9-game season. So roughly you can kind of double the numbers. He's on pace for around 475 yards and 6 touchdowns. I feel like that's pretty low. I feel like I remember people, not particularly you, but I remember some people were upset when I said you'd be thrilled to have McCole Hardman's rookie season, which McCole rookie season was around 650 yards, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But not only that, is he was a weapon in the return game as well. Like, he had an impact that wasn't just at wide receiver. He was an all-pro punt returner.
So McCole Hardman's rookie season, 538 yards with 6 touchdowns. Let's see, he didn't have any rushing. He had no rushing touchdowns his rookie season. So Xavier Worthy has him there.
Yeah. I mean, part of it has to be the utilization, right? Like, I don't know how many times I've seen a 50-50 ball go to Xavier Worthy, headed to the outside. Like, listen, I understand that you see something in a player and maybe what he can be. I'm not going to say that, I don't want to speculate too much on what Brett Veach or any of his scouts saw in Xavier Worthy, but I know that it wasn't that. I know that it wasn't, hey, this is our 50-50 ball guy, possession receiver that when it's 3rd and long, we can find him on the outside running like a fade, and it's one-on-one, him versus a 6'2" cornerback who's got him manned up and he can make the catch. That should not be the plan. I don't think that that's, been a major part of their plan with him so far, but I just see it so often that you look at it and you go, hey, what's the deal here? I mean, it was the same thing with Rashee Rice when he was drafted, right? It's like, hey, big slot. He's going to catch he's going to be a fantastic yak player. We're not going to put him in situations where it's one-on-one on the goal line, throw a fade back shoulder, and he's going to make the catch. Like, he could probably do it, but that's not where he's supposed to be utilized. And Xavier Worthy hasn't really shown that he can thrive in his, what's the best way to put it? Like, his way of playing football, like deep down the field, making deep catches. It seems like he's just making mistake after mistake after mistake. And you can tell, I mean, you said the completion percentage, 48.7%, Patrick Mahomes to Xavier Worthy. I think everybody, they might not have been able to pick that number out specifically, but sub 50%, I think the majority of people would have said. Like, it's noticeable on the field.
Well, I think one thing, too, with him that I constantly am struggling with a little bit is we've seen the Chiefs try to use him in some of the gadget manufactured touch roles behind the line of scrimmage, and those haven't really been super effective. I think probably the most effective was the end around first game where he kind of exploded onto the scene with that touchdown. But that's not really gotten going since that carry. Like, Tyreek Hill, if you remember, he was good for several really big carries. And they've not really explored that with him. And a part of it is, like, it was almost comical how hard he got hit in the 49ers game when he carried the ball. I mean, he went flying back. He is small. McCole Hardman, for all the gadgety shortcomings that he has, he actually is thick enough and dense enough that when he gets hit, sometimes he bounces off people. And you don't feel like he's going to go flying the other direction. So you've got this guy with an elite yak ability with the speed, not necessarily like tackle breaking, but you feel a little unsure of using him close to the line of scrimmage. And then, oh, by the way, like, if people are getting hands on him, they're completely redirecting him running routes. So we need to free release. You have a hard time putting him up on the line of scrimmage. The role starts getting really limited really fast. And, like, I remember kind of talking a little bit about, how similar or dissimilar his role is going to be to MVS, who was obviously a very physically different receiver. But right now, like, his season is kind of looking a lot like MVS, where it's like stretch the field for us. And then, maybe we throw you 2 or 3 deep ones a year or a game, and we hit on one of them occasionally. And that's kind of what it's been. Now, I'm sure people are screaming through their AirPods right now. Patrick Mahomes has missed Xavier Worthy open. And I think the throw Monday night could have been a little bit better. Also, Xavier Worthy, like, that's predominantly on him, especially whenever you have the, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Like, you adjust to him, not the other way around. And then, Mahomes has missed him. He missed him in that 49ers game. And I do think that these stats end up being better than what I said they were projected to be, because I think Worthy can have a 5 for 150 game where it's just like, he gets like 2 big catches. And I think those are coming. And I do think that Andy Reid is probably saving some things. He's about the only coach that I feel like you can feel comfortable saying that he actually saves things, because he does. Like you see it on the tape and you see it in the playoffs. But there's some areas that we definitely need to see some improvement for Xavier Worthy, whether Hollywood Brown comes back or not.
Yeah, and you made a really good point about his role and how limited it can be. Like, one of the things with MBS is, like, he was a pretty good blocker. Like, you could put him in there on the line and maybe he wouldn't get that free release downfield, but he would at least be a +1 in the run game, which if you're an offensive coordinator and you got a wide receiver that can block, I'll tell you, all those college athletes out there, if you're listening, that's how you stay on the field.
No block, no rock, baby. No block,
that's
no
right.
rock.
That's right. But it's like Xavier Worthy, we just got DeAndre Hopkins, right? And he's kind of, his best utilization is coming out of the slot. And we saw it a bunch in both the games that he's played so far. It's this little quick motion. Maybe he's on the trips, inside of the trip side. He goes to the outside, just forces that cornerback to switch just a little bit, gives him a little release on the outside, nothing crazy. When you take away motion, you can only have one guy in motion at a time before the ball is snapped. And so if you take that away from DeAndre Hopkins and you give it to Xavier Worthy, listen, man, I think Xavier Worthy is going to be a great player. I would much rather see DeAndre Hopkins taking advantage of that rather than Xavier Worthy. Not because DeAndre Hopkins can't go without it, but because Xavier Worthy, it just seems like we're losing stuff on the transition, right? Like there's more positives with Hopkins doing it rather than Worthy. Now, when you talk about like what we expect him to be, I know we've been kind of ragging on him a whole lot here. But dude, the elite athleticism is still there. I don't think anybody that is looking at his play right now says, oh man, that's a crazy drop off from college. It's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe he can't catch a slant over the middle of the field in the red zone to get a touchdown. Maybe that's not where he's best utilized here, like he was at Texas. But there's still some things that you look at and you go, man, if we could be a little bit more creative. And I think you're right with the Andy Reid thing where he's holding some stuff back. It's like, yeah, maybe we get the ball to him on like an end around or a jet sweep or, some quick thing, whip route on the outside. It's 1-on-1 and it's him versus a DB with 5 yards of open field on either side of him. It's like, yeah, there are still opportunities for him to be great.
And I think like the red zone has been kind of like, if you ask Chiefs fans who are looking through red and gold glasses, one of the places that they're going to tell you he's having a really good season. What are you talking about? It's going to be the touchdowns. And he's been a weapon in the red zone. That speed, that short area quickness, it shows down there, right? And he did a lot of those type of things in the Sarkisian offense as well, too. Kind of those motions and those whip routes and things like that down there. But I think one thing here, too, is kind of what does this look like when all the pieces are together? The Chiefs wide receiver room, we're feeling a lot better about it after watching DeAndre Hopkins go out and ball out on Monday Night Football, but it's still missing quite a few pieces. Like, Juju Smith-Schuster. What does this look like when Juju Smith-Schuster's back? I think it looks a little bit better. I think this is a sum of the parts offense right now, especially with pass catchers. If they could ever get Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, DeAndre Hopkins, Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce on the field together, that starts feeling like, hey, like he's really going to be stretching the offense. And Pat does have to hit on those deep shots. And they flash it up on Monday Night Football. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Patrick Mahomes has been one of the like least accurate passers of throws over a certain yardage for the last couple of seasons. So it's something that they definitely got to get on the same page. And some of it's probably on Patrick Mahomes too. Like he does miss him open. And we don't know if it's because he's just not being accurate, or if Xavier Worthy is supposed to round this off or cut it off something different. So it will be one thing I will say is I think Xavier Worthy has shown all the sorts of traits that you want a rookie to have. He seems to have a really good head on his shoulders. He seems really willing to work and learn. He seems to be in a good place. I don't have any concerns about him. He's not, missing walkthroughs, gambling at a slot machine, showing up to a game in PJs when he's a healthy scratch. Those are just some things that he's not doing. So that's a good sign. He seems to be a good kid. And I believe that he will get this figured out. And he's probably just going through a rough patch. It's just that rookie wall that they talk about. We talked about that on the post-game show, that at this point that he's probably playing about as much football as he's ever played in his career, even at a big program like Texas that was in the college football playoff.
Oh yeah, well, and okay, let's kind of relate this back to that Andy Reid, like he's holding stuff back. Do you buy into the idea that, hey, Xavier Worthy might not be getting the targets that he like would be the most effective at because they're trying out other stuff? And do you think that impacts their development? Because I heard an interesting argument the other day from one of my buddies. We were talking about Xavier Worthy, and he said, dude, I just think that when Andy Reid holds stuff back, it kind of limits these rookie wide receivers. And that might be why you would see something like that. Look at Rashee Rice. Like, we knew what Rashee Rice could be, maybe not to the extent that he's, become, but we saw flashes early, and they didn't utilize that full skill set until we got 3/4 of the way through the season or halfway through the season. And then we get into the playoffs, and it's like, wow, look at that. Like, Rashee Rice is a superstar. And it's like, well, I mean, he's been that the whole time. We just haven't really been utilizing him like that or giving him the volume. You think that could be an issue why Xavier Worthy's not really?
I think that kind of set Xavier Worthy up to fail a little bit here whenever he came in. First off, missed almost all of rookie minicamp, which wasn't a great start. Then they sit here and talk about how smart he is. And I do believe that he's smart. I don't think that they're lying about that. But that gave us this expectation of, hey, this guy's going to play and he's going to play a lot. And he can learn all of the roles because like learning the Z, the X, those are different roles in the offense. So we had high expectations. And then week 1 did nothing to tamper those expectations with how he performed. And so it kind of felt like the sky's the limit for him. The Chiefs offense, it is not running out there and, okay, you run a post, I'll run a curl. It is reading defenders and reacting to them and seeing things as the quarterback sees them. And that's the thing that is challenging. So I think they kind of set him up to fail in that instance where it's like, hey, this is more than it might have seemed like it was or it was going to be. And the other thing is like, I think we need to be real about what Rashee Rice was too. I think for a majority of the regular season and into the postseason, Rashee Rice's role was basically based upon him running mesh and mesh concepts basically over the middle of the field and getting open and then manufacture touches and being a bowling ball and being, 6'1", 205 pounds. That's much larger than Xavier Worthy is. The path for Xavier Worthy to have that just push button manufactured touch, it's not as great because the closer you get him to the line of scrimmage, the closer he is to big guys, right? Rashee Rice, it wouldn't be unusual to see a defensive end tackle him when he's, doing those bubble screens and things like that he does. Xavier Worthy could die. It would be scary to see TJ Watt tackling him, right? Just the sheer size difference there. So I do think that there are some unique challenges there to overcome. But I do think also, I think that the plan with having Hollywood Brown there is that Hollywood Brown was going to do some of the things that they're asking Worthy to do now. And Worthy's route tree was probably going to be a little bit more simplified. So there's something to keep in mind. And hey, let's hope that this is a problem we have. Like, man, what I love to see, Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy all on the field. Abso-freaking-lutely. That sounds like an ideal Chiefs offense. I just wish it was Rashee Rice, but that's not really an option. So we will see what this growth looks like for him. I believe in him, the player, and I believe that this is about as good of a landing spot for him. But I also think we can be realistic and say, like, hey, I think he's falling a little bit short of the expectations we might have had for the players who were picked around him.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. There's a lot that can be improved upon, obviously, but he's still a great player. He's going to be good in the offense. Just give him some time.
What I'm most confident about is the fact that after we've had this conversation, he's going to light it up on Sunday against the Broncos because it'll make us look like clowns. So, hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. So put him in your DFS lineup on Underdog. All right. So let's switch over to some awards. Now, it's about the halfway point of the season. They don't have that nice round, like 16 game number. The Chiefs have played 8 games. We're going to just go ahead and make this the midseason award show. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, here we go. Defensive player of the year, MVP, rookie of the year, all those things. We're going for much different awards here. These are awards that we have generated on our own with their own names and their own unique twist. So we're going to go through. Christian and I have some that we're going to overlap. And then we have some of our own unique awards that we've come up with. So, Christian, should we start with the ones we have joint, or should we do our individual ones first?
No, let's do the joint ones first.
Okay. So the first award is It's So Over. It's never been more over. We are cooked. It's so over for this player. Some of these are going to be Chiefs specific. Some of these are going to be NFL specific. Who is it so over for, Christian?
Oh, Wanya Morris. I'm done with it. And it's not just over for him. It's over for me. I've been done. Wanya Morris is a great player. I think that he's he's a player that plays for the Chiefs. And I hate to call a guy out, but, I just think that he's being kind of put at a disadvantage here. Like, he's not a left tackle. We've seen it early. We've seen it often. I think it's made Mahomes kind of second guess where he is in the pocket and makes him make some, errant throws, play a little bit off tilt. I said before the season, Kingsley Suamataia is not ready to start, probably. And we get into the season, we see that start to shake out. They put in Wanya Morris, and it's like, oh, he's not ready to start either. I just don't see how we move forward with Wanya Morris. I think he could be a great interior guy, maybe even a right tackle at some point if he, takes another season, learns the position a little bit more. But I can't get over it, man. Like, there are free agents that are available. Donovan Smith. Has Bakhtiari been signed? I think that he's still available as well.
I think he's available for a reason. I'm not sure he's playing I'm not sure he's going to be playing anytime soon.
Okay. Well, there are players available that can come in and fill the role. They won't be fantastic. They won't have that super high ceiling, but maybe Wanya Morris and maybe Kingsley Suamataia need another year to ripen. And
something right now was widely reported by people who were at the game is that Suamataia was rotating in with Wanya Morris in this game for the first couple of series. And that's something that certain teams have employed. And I think it just speaks to their kind of persistence of wanting to get Wanya back on the field because the ceiling's just higher. Now, I will say you picked
Kingsley.
Yes, Kingsley back in. I will say Wanya had one of his better games as far as pressures and, sack avoidance, those type of things go. But also the Bucs defensive line isn't one that is particularly ripe on the edge. The interior with Kalijah Canty and with Vita V is pretty nasty, but the edges aren't particularly dominant. So there is that. But yes, I don't think that again, I've said this several times, we will be analyzing tackle prospects until we die. For the Chiefs, because it just seems like they can never fill that hole since Mitch Schwartz and Eric Fisher went down.
No, I agree.
It is so over for Sky Moore. I feel like this one's super obvious, but man, like the opportunity was there, right? The really bad season last year, you just kind of write it off and say, maybe there's one more chance here. And not only is he not taking advantage of it, he's also kind of consistently gotten hurt, which I think he's a really good kid. Everyone seems to really like him in the locker room. He seems to be, by all accounts, a good guy, but it's not happening on the NFL field. And at some point, the Chiefs have just got to cut bait with this project and to say this didn't end up happening and give him the ability to maybe try to go make it work somewhere else. And at this point, unfortunately, it is very clearly in his head, where he is scared for the ball to come his way. It gets to the point that when the ball is coming his way, it started with the punt returns and it's never gotten better as a pass catcher. It's over. And whenever you've got Kansas City reporters talking about hearing loud thuds in the executive's office or the executive suite as Sky Moore drops a pass, that tells you that they're done with it too. So, I'm not sure how much longer he's going to be here in Kansas City. I would not be surprised if they don't rush him back from this core surgery. Not that they were going to anyways, but that seems kind of like the way it's going to end. And look, man, there's some dark side to the internet. There was a side of the internet even throughout this summer that were like, well, Sky Moore is getting open and Patrick Mahomes is not throwing him the ball, which no,
I don't know.
Please,
I don't know about that.
No, please don't send me those screenshots. And then hey, even if that's true, I don't care. Okay. Because one of these guys is the god of football and the other one of them is literally Sky Moore. Okay. So we're going to go with Patrick Mahomes. And if Sky Moore is quote unquote open and Patrick Mahomes doesn't throw him the ball, he's wrong. Okay. If Patrick Mahomes is right, you're wrong. It's just that simple. And that's the way it's going to be. And if Pat didn't want to throw you the ball, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So Sky Moore, it's over.
Preach,
we
brother.
are so back. We are so back. We've never been more back. The back. Who is back for you?
How about a linebacker is back? Nick Bolton is my guy. Okay. He had a rough start. He came out and then he started showing out. He's got tackles for losses. We're seeing his impact in the game. I don't know if it's enough to earn that incredibly high linebacker contract that he's probably looking for this offseason, but he's back and he's in charge and he's running the defense, and you see him make some mistakes here and there, but the dude is back. I mean, you have to admit, Price, he's on the right track.
I feel like you have a knack for picking the wrong games to talk about players. Like, you always are like a game behind, because a week or two ago I would agree with you, but I thought that this was one of his lesser games. I thought the Ravens game was definitely his worst game, but he kind of got taken advantage of in this week with the Bucks. Part of it was
what are you talking about with like Kate Otten? Because it wasn't in the run.
Not only
Kate filling in the run.
But I think you saw also, like, where did the Buccaneers have some success running the ball? It was outside the tackles. Why? Because that gets like Nick Bolton flowing side to side, where that athleticism is a little bit more limited rather than downhill, right? And that's where the Bucks, and let's be clear here, the Buccaneers didn't just have some dominant rushing attack. That's not what the difference was in this game, but they definitely did have some success there on the outside zone, kind of around the tackles outside. And I think that was one of the places that Bolton's weaknesses showed up a little bit. And there was some times in the screen game too that Bucky Irving got him a couple of times. And I don't know, like I'm not saying that he's been bad or anything like this. I just don't think that this was his strongest game.
See, and that's wild to me. You look at an outside zone play, and normally that middle linebacker is filling. I understand we're doing like a 4-2-5 where, it's him and Tranquil or him and Leo Chanel. Not very often now, but where we've got two linebackers, usually that's like the safety coming up is the outside zone. Like, I'll agree with you. Bucky Irving got him. But when I'm looking at those outside zone plays, my first thought is not Nick Bolton is not doing well. It's where's our defensive end? And there was one where Malik Herring just got completely bullied by that left tackle. And
let's be clear, the tackle play, particularly Tristan Wirfs for the Buccaneers, is really good. And Luke Gedeke, the right tackle there, he kind of struggled in pass protection, but he is kind of a bear in the run game. So, I mean, I don't think it was horrible or anything like that. I just don't think it was his best game. There were some times that lack of athleticism popped. Mine, we are so back, is Juwan Taylor. Frequent whipping boy of Chiefs Kingdom, especially Chris Collinsworth. In his last 3 games, 0 penalties, 4 pressures allowed. And by the way, in those 4 games, he's facing Nick Bosa and Max Crosby. I've always contended that Juwan Taylor does things well when he's not getting penalized. And I think he's been quietly having a pretty good season here. And I think that that's been really important with the left tackle position being what it's been. And, every contract looks better a year or 2 later after it's been signed as the market kind of corrects itself. Juwan Taylor's contract already doesn't look nearly as bad as it might have. So Juwan Taylor, we are so back. Before I was thinking like, hey, maybe the Chiefs want to try to get out of this as soon as possible next year. Well, they restructured his contract, so that's not happening now. And I think, honestly, you're glad to not have to worry about right tackle next year, given how many vacant spots will be on the roster next year. So Juwan Taylor, we are so back.
Yeah, I agree, dude. Like, he has been the whipping boy, not only for Chris Collinsworth, but for everybody. It seems like anytime that there's a Chiefs game, everybody's picking out the one snap where he doesn't get called for false start. And it's a ticky-tack one that Lane Johnson wouldn't get penalized for. And dude, he's been legitimately good. Like, and he restructured his contract. I understand that's advantageous for him. It's not like I'm a real team player type of thing. You get your money early, and it basically guarantees you'll be with the team for another year. But I mean, dude, he's back. Yeah, I agree 100%. 100%.
Okay, so next category is Boom or Doom, in honor of the Costco Guy cinematic universe, which is really just expanding. They've got the mom and the sister in it now, the Rizzler, who I personally relate with, the little chunk ball. That's probably what I looked like as a kid. But Boom or Doom, who is your high variance player? The guy, like, sometimes he's just popping off and awesome, and other times not so much.
See, I thought about, there were a few people I thought about here. But I had to go with Xavier Worthy. I know we've belabored the point. We spent the first 30 minutes of the podcast talking about it. He's a boomer bust player. But I just feel like we need to put that emphasis on it, that this is what we really think Xavier Worthy is, right? Because he's got the high ceiling. He's capable of that 120-yard game with 2 touchdowns. But he's also like making dumb mistakes on the sideline. And when we really need a first down, he can't make the contested catch. And I mean, there's ceiling there, but you're at the point in this season where, especially if you are a classic overreactor like I am, you see Xavier Worthy not making plays and you're like, oh my gosh, we wasted a first round pick. Like, oh, okay, well, there he goes. Brett Veach again. And you kind of have to calm yourself down. Okay, well, there's still some upside here. Just relax. That's Xavier Worthy in a nutshell. He's booming or you're yelling through your TV screen.
Yeah, and I mean, he's just that type of player, right? Like, he can touch the ball one time and it changes the whole complexion of a game. That was the Los Angeles Chargers game, right? Where things look so bleak on offense after the Rashee Rice injury. Boom, slot fade to him, touchdown, and you're right back in it, right? So he's that type of player. He's kind of the perfect one. Mine, in honor of you, my boom or doom is Nick Bolton, because there are Nick Bolton games and where he really does pop, and you're just like, God, man, I'm so glad that this guy's on this team. Like the Falcons game, made some huge plays in that game. Also made a lot of really big plays in the 49ers game. Again, another team that's, running the ball quite a bit. And there's other games that it's like, oh boy, it just really feels like they are going out him as often as possible. And let's be clear too, one thing I want to highlight is teams in general, they are going to try to isolate linebackers in coverage. That's just the game plan, right? Because linebackers against Jahmyr Gibbs or Sam Laporta, take the Lions, right? One of the best offenses in the NFL. That's an instant loss. Linebackers that covering out of the slot. I chart football all the time for FTN. And the amount of times that I chart a linebacker lined up in the slot over a really good wide receiver is very often. It happens. So like that's a total mismatch. That's what this is about, is generating mismatches, especially whenever you factor in like how much defenses have come back and been able to equip themselves to protect against these offenses in the modern day NFL. So Nick Bolton is not like terrible or anything like that. That's what teams do, but teams do have success doing it. And there are some games you just know are going to be Nick Bolton game. And, Tiger Dan 773 is going to be responding to you on Twitter saying, you tried to tell me not the best player on the field. And then there's other games that like, Kate Otten, Isaiah Likely, they're just cooking us. And that's why he's my boom or doom.
Yeah. And I get it, man. Like we all don't have the foresight to see these players like take a huge giant leap like I do with Nick Bolton, but I'm sure you'll be right. I've been proven wrong multiple times on this show. We'll see if it happens. What's the next one, Price?
This next one is the Toby Keith Legacy Award. May he rest in peace. I ain't as good I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. This is the Unk Award, the Old Man Award. The Chiefs are quietly an old team now, simply because of some of the players they've added. But who is one player, maybe it's a specific performance or a player that you feel like is really suiting up for an old head?
So this guy's been old for a few years now on the Chiefs team, and it's still somehow being productive. I know it, but it seems like this dude has been on the roster for like 15 years, and he's been at 3 other places before this. It's Mike Pennell. And like, I still see him running out there playing D tackle against he's a zero tech. We're in a 3-man front, and he's right head up on the center, and he's controlling 2 gaps. And it's like, yeah, dude, that's Mike Pennell. Oh, Mike Pennell from like the first Super Bowl we won? No. He's a little bit later than that. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I feel like he's been here since I was 12 years old. Oh, no, he was, when he was 12 years old, he was just getting into the league. But still, this dude has been around for so long. He's an old player when we got him. He's 33 years old now, and he's out snapping Derek Nottie, who's supposed to be like the young run-stopping D tackle we have for these specific situations. It's like Mike Pennell just gets shit done. And like when you're looking at D linemen and you're like, hey, we need somebody that can claw gaps and do all the dirty work, that's Mike Pennell. And he got 18 snaps this past game. He's now out playing Tershawn Wharton. But dude, he's just all over the field. He does his job, gets the stuff done we need to get done, and he's like 1,000. So perfect in my estimation for this award.
Yeah, actually, that's a great call out. Like he has played really well. He was a huge part of the run defense in the Super Bowl last year. And I really question his ability to sustain this over a year, partially because of the age, partially because the Chiefs have mainly brought him in like around Thanksgiving, the 2 Super Bowls that he was here for. And also like in the time he was away from Kansas City, he got busted for PEDs. So there's some questions there of like, these are guys who take PEDs. They're not taking them because they're satisfied with their performance, right? And I know every player who takes PEDs didn't know they did it, right? But we all know that that's not necessarily the truth. So I was interested to see how it's gone, but the Chiefs' run defense continues to be one of their biggest strengths on defense, and Mike Pennell certainly plays a huge part in that. So great shout out by you. My guy, I'm going to take the easy one here. I usually try to go for the more subtle ones. It's Travis Kelce. Right? Like, I think, especially at the beginning of the year, we were all very worried about what version of Travis Kelce we were getting. And quietly, Travis Kelce's terrible, no good, wash season. He's totally cooked. Oh, wait, he's 4th in yards, 2nd in receptions, and 5th in yards per game for tight ends. Do I think that he is the guy that the offense flows through now? No, I think he's partly that. It used to be entirely Travis Kelce offense, but someone made this point. Like, I made some tweet that was basically posting his stats saying like, this is pretty good for a wash season. And someone like responded, this isn't the victory you think it is. And I said, I don't think Travis Kelce's the best tight end in the NFL anymore. I think he's the most accomplished. I'm not sure that he right now as a player, he's the best guy. There's just more younger, athletic, twitchier guys out there right now. But I will say, if this is his worst season, in his age 35 season, whenever Rob Gronkowski, who's literally the same age, has been retired for 3 or 4 years, that just shows what type of player he is. And Travis Kelce, he puts on the cape sometimes, and he had the most catches in his career. He's the only player at 35 years old to have 14 receptions in a game against the Buccaneers. So I think he is going to just really benefit from DeAndre Hopkins being here, and hopefully Juju Smith-Schuster, Hollywood Brown, those guys help with that too.
Yeah, and I mean, congrats on the chalk pick. I think you're trying to bump our ratings up a little bit. But yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, man. Like, been fantastic. He's still old. Great. What else is there to say about Travis Kelce, man? Yeah,
well, I mean, I think it's just like worth mentioning too that like we didn't know what this was going to look like, right? The yards per reception are down for him. He's not a yak guy anymore. I would not like. I'm kind of tired of seeing the bubble screens and stuff to him, but he's still finding a way to be productive. And if he can win over the middle of the field like he's been doing the last couple of weeks, that's going to help a lot. Let's go on to our last award. This is the Kevin's Famous Chili Award, which is after The Office. If you're not familiar with the GIF, you can type it in to your phone, but it's Kevin, one of the best characters on The Office, carrying a large pot of chili, and then he falls and spills it all over himself. Chili, something delicious, good. People thought it was going to be good, and it ends up being awful. What is your Kevin's chili of the season so far?
See, I'm going to give you crap for taking a chalk pick, and I'm going to do the exact same thing right here. Jets. Obviously, Jets. They're trading pieces away. They think they're Super Bowl ready. Obviously, that is not the case. They had a little bit of spark, but they're losing to the freaking Patriots, man. Like, I understand it's a rivalry game. It's interdivisional, so like anything can happen. But you're the Jets. You're supposed to be the Super Bowl team. You've won 2 games this season. So I understand Garrett Wilson's a superhero. Devontae Adams is the best receiver in the past 10 years. Yeah, you got to win more games than that. And what you've done is you've mortgaged the future for right now, except right now sucks. It's like a dynasty fantasy football team who trades their picks away for like 30-year-old Derrick Henry or, I don't know, Saquon before his injuries. And it's like, okay, well, you know, you're basically betting it all this season, and you're probably not going to make the playoffs. So there's like no sight. They're firing coaches every other day, it seems like. The fans are obviously unhappy with the situation. It just seems like pot of chili preseason dumps it all out as soon as the first game happens.
Yeah, man, it has not gone well there, and that's even with getting DeAndre Hopkins. I think like the biggest thing that stood out to me is, one, the defense isn't as good. Surely firing a really good defensive-minded coach didn't help with that, right? Like Robert Saleh frequently really gave Josh Allen fits, and Josh Allen had one of his best games of the year against the Jets a couple of weeks ago. A game that was for first place in the division, by the way, a game which they fired Robert Saleh right before. And then also like their inability to run the ball with Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, 2 pretty highly drafted, touted running backs, is just really puzzling. And that feels like a big part of why they've not taken off. And I'm a big proponent of Matt LaFleur, the coach. And I think like he just looks better and better with Aaron Rodgers. And I understand Rodgers tore his Achilles and is 40 years old, but LaFleur just comes out of this looking even better with what he did with Rodgers and getting him to buy into the season and win 2 MVPs. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. And I think Aaron Rodgers is kind of proving why. Mike Evans chili. I've already went in on this franchise recently, but it's not gotten any better since we talked about it. It's the freaking Raiders, man. You want to talk about like the Chiefs galaxy brain this by letting the Raiders win in Arrowhead on Christmas Day and letting them fly this fake banner that win meant anything. Then they hire Antonio Pierce, a guy who's like highly unqualified to be a head coach as far as his resume goes. And they do it all around vibes and this really soft streak of beating backup quarterbacks and just not very good quarterback play in general. So they hire him, and then they're going to do this thing with Gardner Minshew, and it's already completely falling apart. Not only is the team bad, the team was supposed to be a hard-nosed defensive team, which, oh, by the way, like they've not been that. They signed one of the biggest free agents this whole season with Christian Wilkins. He's already out for the season or very, very long term, indefinitely, last time I checked. And they're already firing multiple staffers. Luke Getsy, which, by the way, everyone could have told you Luke Getsy wasn't a good offensive coordinator. Any Bears fan could have told you that. And I think that they hired Getsy because they wanted to try to get Justin Fields, which, by the way, why didn't you get Justin Fields? He went for like pennies on the dollar. You absolutely could have gotten Justin Fields and paired him back with Getsy. At least there's some familiarity. No, but now we're going to fire him and bring in Norv Turner. Yeah, that Norv Turner, like the Chargers Norv Turner. Like, what are we doing? The dude's like 78 years old. Let's get the 78, and he's bringing his son in too. But it just seems like we're already trying to fire people to try to get the blame off of Antonio Pierce. I don't know what the plan is there. I have no idea what the long-term goal is there. But the pot of chili is just all over them. And honestly, there was no chili in there to begin with. And people who are fooling themselves into the Raiders being something really need to go back and look at what that season was last year.
Oh, yeah. Well, and all the wasted capital, like the draft picks that you've wasted on first-round talents. It's egregious. It's malpractice for any GM. Like, just if you have an afternoon, just go through Raiders draft picks 2017 and just work your way up, and you go, who's that? Oh, who's that guy? Where hold on, is he neither like the third stringer for the Cowboys right now? And they need players. Oh, okay. And you go through that, and it makes your day happier. But if you're a Raiders fan, that's probably not fantastic.
All right, so now we're getting into our individual words. I went pretty unique with mine. My first one is Robert Kardashian is my lawyer award. For those of you that don't know,
what?
The Kardashian family, part of the reason why they are who they are is not just because of their beauty, but Robert Kardashian was the lawyer of O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson put together a dream team of lawyers to defend him in his homicide trial, which, by the way, The People vs. O.J. Simpson, excellent series. I recommend you watch it. Robert Kardashian was one of those people, and basically I use this as a way to say someone who has a really good lawyer who really helps maintain and rescue the reputation, and that's got to be Kareem Hunt this year, man. I know off the field in the past, Kareem Hunt really isn't a person I should be rooting for, but God dang it, it is so hard not to root for him. And something about watching him come in and fight so hard for the team and fight for every carry that he can and push his way into the end zone. And I know part of it is just the nostalgia of watching him come in with Pat, the draft at the same time. They're good friends. It's so hard not to root for this guy. And like the PR spin and him kind of, manufacturing and repairing his image here in Kansas City, I think it's been huge. And it really does feel like if this does go the way we all want it to, that it's going to just be this awesome storyline. And I feel gross kind of saying that. It's in the past and we all make mistakes and we all know that. And I feel like we as Chiefs fans, we should acknowledge that. There are some people who will never be able to get over those things. That's your own prerogative. That's okay with me. You can fan how you want to fan. I'm not going to gatekeep your fandom. Like, I was never going to buy my son a Tyreek Hill jersey. Okay. I just wasn't going to do it. I was very glad Tyreek Hill was here. He's a very good football player. I'm not sure that he was guilty of all the things that he was accused of, but there was something there. And that's okay. And it's the same thing with Kareem Hunt. There's very clearly some poor decision-making in his past, but I'm happy he's here in Kansas City right now. And now that he's here, I think that he's shown a willingness to kind of try to right as many wrongs as possible. So for that, I give him the Robert Kardashian as my lawyer.
Fantastic name. Took me a second to get it, but I'm a little bit younger, Price. This younger generation, you gotta speed it up.
I wasn't alive during the O.J. Simpson. Oh, I don't think I was. I don't know. Like, I definitely have no memories of it. I just know that story because of O.J. Simpson is just such an interesting story. I would say rest in peace, but no. But also Kim Kardashian, like, shout out to her.
Hey, yeah, we can shout out Kim K.
Just a reminder, you are not ugly, you're just poor. Kim Kardashian is right. No, actually, Khloe Kardashian is proof of that. My goodness. She looks like a different human.
Price.
Different human.
We can talk about keeping up with the Kardashians after this. My first award, you went so unique with them. I'm feeling a little bad, feeling like I wasn't creative enough. LeBron James Award is my first one. And think about it however you like future all-time great. Like, he's one of the best in the sport, had a lot put on his shoulders when he came in, carried it all out. Patrick Mahomes. He injures his ankle every other week and it's egregious, and he still somehow comes back from it. LeBron James. Like, he lines up with LeBron James's timeline so perfectly. It's like maybe he didn't have all the pre-draft stuff that LeBron had, but as soon as he comes in, starts winning championships, it's like, hey, who's that guy? Like, he's probably going to have a better record in all-time finals games, if you want to look at it that way. But, dude, yeah, just fantastic. I think the parallels are uncanny. Yeah, LeBron James Award, Patrick Mahomes.
He's got the Paul Pierce, right? Like, getting taken off in a wheelchair and then, like, coming back somehow. Like, dude, I talked about in the post game, but I was already mad. I'd already gone beyond sad to mad. That was like, God dang it! As soon as he tears Achilles, he needs to do it in week 2. That way we can have good draft capital and trade people. And I was already upset about that. I was like, oh, they're too good now. They'll win too many games with Carson Wentz. They'll go like 10. They'll win like 10 games and then like lose in the playoffs first round and have a mediocre draft pick. I was already upset about that. My next one is a picture is worth 1,000 words photo. And this is for the still image of Baker Mayfield realizing that the Chiefs won the coin toss in overtime. That is a top 5 photo in the Patrick Mahomes era. And I know it's just Baker Mayfield and it's just a week 9 football game against the NFC Buccaneers. But I just thought, like, Baker Mayfield is a good football player and he's a competitor. And I've really come to appreciate him as a player. But watching his reaction, realize it is over. It is inevitable. They are winning this game. Like, think about how much of a competitor Baker Mayfield is in that Bucs defense and how hard they fought that night. There was no thought of like, oh, hey, well, we can get a stop here. We can hold them to a field goal and then we go down and score a touchdown. The coin toss was over and he knew the game was over. And you know what? Like, that to me just instills the mentality that when the opponent plays the Chiefs, there is just this utter fear of what Patrick Mahomes can do. And you can play 59 really good minutes against the Chiefs. And that doesn't matter because 90% of the time when the clock strikes 0, the Chiefs are going to have more points than you. And I know that's just that simple, but it really is just that simple. And that photo of him, like, sighing and looking up to the heavens, wondering why God built Patrick Mahomes the way he did, it was over. And, it was a great embodiment of it. And like, hey, shout out to Patrick Mahomes. He knew what to call, which the 49ers didn't. Like, he didn't defer or something like that. He wanted the ball. He knew the right thing to call there, and shout out to him.
Yeah, and what's really fun about rooting for the Chiefs now is that every single team that comes in and plays them has to play them by a different set of rules. Like, every single coach at all levels of sports, when you get to that point, it's like, hey, we have a field goal or we can try for 2. Every single one of them is going to tell you to kick the field goal. If you have a field goal kicker that's actually good, which the Bucs did have, they're going to tell you to kick it and take it to overtime and see what happens. When you play the Chiefs, you can't do that. You can't. That's the wrong call. I understand it's free points.
Thank you. Thank you, Todd Bowles.
You can't do it. Yes. Oh my gosh. All right. So my next award is the Best Eyes Award. I went kind of high school superlative here. Best Eyes, Kareem Hunt. And I don't mean in like the pretty blue shinies or whatever he has in his eyes right now. I mean best eyes on the field. Like Kareem Hunt just finds a way to never get hit and pushed back directly at the line of scrimmage. It's every blow is a glancing blow that goes off of his shoulder. He rolls, he does some crazy stuff, and he gets like half a yard more. And that doesn't seem like a lot when you're just watching a game. It's like, wow, Kareem, you know, instead of 2nd and 7, it's 2nd and 6. It's like, but from a coaching standpoint, like a yard or a half yard might be the difference between you calling one play or the other. And you're looking at that first down marker for wide receivers. They're like point that they try to get to in the field before they make a break or they, you know, make a cut on their route. It all is based off of where that first down marker is or a landmark that they have pre-set up. It's like it always just seems that matches up. It makes things a little bit more easier on the offense. And if Kareem Hunt isn't as great looking at the line of scrimmage and making chicken salad out of chicken, you know what? The Chiefs offense is not nearly as good as it could or as it is right now. Like he's got the backpack on. He's carrying this offense. And he did it for long enough that we're undefeated still. So yeah, best eyes Kareem Hunt.
Something just occurred to me. So the last time the Chiefs had a 1,000 yard rusher was Kareem Hunt in 2017 when he won the rushing title. Without looking, what do you think Kareem Hunt's yardage total right now is for the Chiefs?
Probably 300.
414 yards in 5 games. Jeez. There are 9 games remaining in the season. Now, Isaiah Pacheco is always going to play a big part in this. If Kareem Hunt averages 66 yards a game the last 9 games of the season, which would be tough, but doable, he'll be the next 1,000-yard rusher. How funny would that be if he 1,000-yard rusher and then the next 1,000-yard rusher is Kareem Hunt like all those years later? That'd just be very funny. I don't think it's going to happen. In fact, I hope it doesn't happen because I want him to be fresh for the playoffs. But it would be kind of humorous if it happened that way. But yeah, we've talked about him a lot, and I think even in that game, like you saw the team go to Kareem Hunt, and it really opened up the offense in the second half. So he's been instrumental. It's been way more than anybody would have expected for that signing when it happened. My next award is the Jerry Maguire Show Me the Money Award. And that goes to Trey Smith, who is making a pile of cash. He is playing so well this year. He's always played well. He is such a stand-up guy. I think teams are really going to prioritize him in the offseason. In fact, like I've already accepted the fact he's not coming back to Kansas City. I would be shocked. At this point, I just want to see the number be really big for him. And I want to see where he goes. Like what team is it? Is it the Bears with the Ryan Poles connection and how much they're struggling along the offensive line? I personally think Chargers. Like the Chargers, they're going to prioritize that championship swagger. It seems like these type of guys always go within the division, and they want to ground and pound the ball. He would be a perfect complement with Zion Johnson on the other side. They're kind of one offensive lineman short there. Honestly, 2. They need a center too, but they've got the bookend tackles. You've got Zion Johnson. You put Trey Smith in there, that'd be filthy. And that would just be a classic tone setting. And by the way, the Chargers are going to have lots of cap space to make that sort of move. So show me the money, Trey Smith.
Yeah. Trey Smith, if you're not watching the all 22 of any of these games or any of the highlight reels, you might not notice exactly the impact. It seems like every time we need to get yardage on the ground, we're pulling Trey Smith and we're saying, Kareem Hunt, just what number he is.
Troy Aikman actually does a pretty good job breaking down plays, I think. The Monday Night Football crew is pretty good. And there was a pin and pull that Trey Smith had, and you could hear the collision. Like it was incredible, man.
Was that the one where he hit that linebacker? He went up through the whole. Oh my gosh, dude!
Yeah, poetry in motion, and he's so freaky athletic for how big he is. And yeah, man, it's gonna. I'm hoping the best for him. And if the Chiefs do somehow make it work, it's almost worth it.
Oh yeah, and there aren't a whole lot of players I would try to add before I would try to add Nick Bolton at the right price, but Trey Smith is absolutely one of them. There's like 2 guys that I think the Chiefs should really make the space to retain. It's Trey Smith and it's Trey McDuffie. Like 2 of the best players at their position. You can make the argument that they are the best at something at their position. Both need to remain here in KC. My next one is the Underdog Award, and I gave this award out to a player who kind of really saw a lot of, I don't want to say hate because I don't think it was pointed, but Distrust. There's a lot of distrust of this player in the media, and he was a good player. Kind of regressed this past season, but I'm talking about Joshua Williams, who's a guy who got targeted an insane amount against the Bucs. He was drafted higher than Jalen Watson, the dude who replaced him. The entire past week after the Chiefs got Josh Uche was, oh, well, they're trading for Marshawn Lattimore. Why? Because there's nobody on that team that could step up and take the place of Jalen Watson. Okay, well, he's not a superstar cornerback. But I feel like Joshua Williams, like at one point, he was above him in the pecking order of that DB room. Like, he's a guy that's shown that he can play. Obviously, he has to take some steps forward, but it seems like everybody in the world is talking about how this dude can't hang, and I think he can. I think that you give him the rest of the season, let him play up. I think he'll do much better. But there's just so many people counting against him. I don't know, man. I just at some point that guy's going to take a step forward and make everybody look stupid.
Yeah, I think like all the physical tools are there. He definitely has the traits, and I think he's not quite gotten a fair shake this season. First off, Jalen Watson came out and won this job, and he was the underdog in that situation, coming back from the injury. And Joshua Williams, I think there's some shortcomings there. It seems to be like and I don't have any numbers on this. It feels like there's a lot more coverage bust when he's out there. I think there's some communication errors, but it does feel like the stock has reached a point that it's too low. And I still believe in him and the ability he has on the field. And I do think that things can get better. And I do think that the Chiefs will find ways to help this secondary out. I thought this game in particular, with watching Joshua Uche and some of the 4-man rushes they did there, this felt like one of the, and I should have pulled the numbers. I didn't think to, but this felt like one of the lesser blitzing performance from the Chiefs defense in a while. They didn't come after Baker Mayfield that much with an extra rusher. And I think that they're going to start bringing some more help for that secondary and try to get home with 4 and see what that looks like. So I'll be interested to see what that looks like. And yeah, I think like Joshua Williams, he is the underdog fantasy. Shout out to our friends. But I think the stock has gotten too low on him. And I think he could be kind of a quiet hero this season, the second part. And we've seen the Chiefs do it time and time again with corners. So why not him? Why not he? My last award, I'm going to go in big picture NFL. And this is the I owe you an apology. I wasn't familiar with your game, Shaq Award. And this goes to Jaden Daniels. Man, if you asked me during the draft, which of these quarterbacks taken in the first round did I think was most likely to bust, which such a weird thing to say, to flame out. Yeah, most likely to flame out. Yep. Most likely to flame out. I would have said Bo Nix first just because breakout age. I believe in that. And also what he was asked to do in the offense, which, by the way, he's doing well for himself. We can talk about how real or not real that is, but he's doing well for himself. But Jaden Daniels would have been the next person I said. Another older breakout player. Didn't break out until he had 2 NFL tackles, 2 NFL wide receivers, and an SEC offense, and didn't throw over the middle of the field particularly well at LSU, and never scrambled to throw. It was, either in the pocket and I'm throwing the ball, or I'm tucking the ball and running. There was never running to create and throw. And then pair that with Dan Quinn, a retread defensive head coach, and Cliff Kingsbury. And by the way, the offensive cast isn't super great there. I never saw this coming from Jaden Daniels. And I never thought that we would be this fast and people questioning whether Caleb Williams was the right pick at 1. I still think, like, if you're the Bears, you don't do it over. It's very, very early in the going. But I'm just shocked by how quick he has hit the ground running. And not just that, but how efficient he is down the field. And look, if you watched any of the Jaden Daniels tape or the Brian Thomas Jr. tape, you knew that the slot fade was something he did really well with. So you knew that part of his game, but the efficiency on 3rd and 4th down and running as a creator. And oh, by the way, yes, he did get hurt, but that was kind of a weird play that he got hurt on. It wasn't him just Hail Marrying into things. That kind of used to be something with him where he just would have no concern for his body. But he's really done a pretty good job of taking care of himself health-wise as far as not taking those big hits. So, Jaden Daniels, I was not familiar with your game, and I am impressed, sir.
See, I really love what they're doing over there in Washington with him. Like, a lot of teams will try to do a lot of pre-snap motion so that you can get a read of the defense. Well, in the NFL now, that used to be a huge tell, but right now in the NFL, it's so difficult. They will disguise coverages. It's almost never man coverage. I think the rate of man coverage is like 24% or across the entire league. 24% of snaps are actually man coverage. So when you do that pre-snap motion, all it does for that quarterback is like muddy up the water. So they're keeping no motion. It's just a clear picture. Cliff Kingsbury is doing an incredible job setting him up to succeed, giving him one look. Hey, this is what they're dropping into. There's nothing you have to like try to calculate. It's just go out there, ball, we'll set you up to succeed. And it's working, dude. Like Jaden Daniels is incredible. I'm kind of an LSU guy. They're my second team in the in college football that I root for. But yeah, dude, I don't think anybody saw this version of Jaden Daniels. So my last award is the Wii Golfing Award. I don't know if you ever played Wii Golf.
Yeah, I love the Wii Sports.
Okay, so you remember when you'd hit the ball close and the pin would go up and then the Mii's would go, and you missed. Yeah. And it was like, that's how I feel every single time I see Justin Reed on the field. Like there are so many times where, like, especially in this Bucs game, where he jumps up to make the interception. Everybody's on their feet. Oh, he swats it down. Oh, it was so close. There are some times where he's coming downhill where you see him and it's like, oh, he's about to blow this kid up. And then a pulling guard will hit him and push him out of the way. And it's like, oh, we were so close to seeing Justin Reed absolutely obliterate some kid. Now you will still see him making some plays, but there's just so many times that I'm watching these games and it's just like so close. So close. I want you to be really, really good, Justin Reed, and you're only pretty good, and that's okay.
He was actually the person I wrote down for my Boomer Doom first time, and then I changed it up because like there are some games you're like, God, man, I'm so glad that he's on this team, and there's other times it's like, brother, like, come on, buddy, like for once, be beside the tight end instead of not two steps behind him. And every time Jaden Hicks finds the field, I feel like he pops. Like I just constantly find myself wanting more Jaden Hicks. And you will find yourself constantly wanting more Arrowhead Addict, which is good because we have a show every single day of the week. I'm talking to you. Yes, you, the listener. Did you like this video? Have you subscribed to the channel? You should do that. You should do that right now. And in fact, while you're doing that, you should leave a review on iTunes. We're trying to get to 400 reviews. Leave something nice about us. We'll read it on the show. If you read something mean about the show, I'll read it and get angry and talk to my wife about it. So don't do that. But leave something nice. And also you, the listener, and us, the podcasters, we're thanking Richard, who is our awesome producer. Thank you for doing such a good job with the show, Richard. We always appreciate you. And we appreciate you, Chiefs Kingdom, for listening. Thank you for being an Arrowhead Addict. Thank you for tuning in. And till next time, go Chiefs.